Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 20 of What If Naruto had the ultimate nature bloodline. Remember to get this one to 100 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform, and also guys, go ahead and check out the brand new episode over on Anime King of What If Naruto Was a Hope of the Uchiha Clan, and enjoy that guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become a part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support, and yeah, without further ado, what do you say begin this new episode? Start the intro. So, the last time we left off, Oniki and the Raikage was meeting up. The both of them had kept their tail beasts under wrap. Yujito, Han, Roshi, and Killer Bee. They haven't been spotted for the past couple of years now. As they were secretly building their army, they had had a lot of meetings over the past couple of years, planning on how to destroy Konoha, as they were going to conquer the Land of Fire once and for all. In the past, several times they wage war against Land of Fire, but they always lose. Always have to sign a peace treaty, but this time not. They wouldn't be doing it. But there were some key factors that stood in their way, and that was the Crimson Death and the second coming of the Shodan, which was Minma. They were two strong boys who were said to wipe out a great portion of Mizkage's army and allow the rebels to win. The boys were powerful and everyone knew that, and not to mention Minato and the Uchihas and the Hyugas, so they had to tread very carefully, but Oniki had acquired the Akatsuki services, and it was just a matter of time. Meanwhile, that was going on, as Naruto was facing off against Damon. Damon came in quick as he tried to end the fight rather quickly, going after Naruto with his swift and brutal attacks, making sure that he would deliver sufficient damage to Naruto to make him never forget this day. It looked like Naruto was fighting and he was getting hurt, but in actuality Naruto was barely putting in effort, as Minma noticed that something strange happened as it caused Naruto to lose focus for a while, as he was knocked back into the barrier. As the fox spoke to him, something was messing with his chakra system. The seal was designed to let a portion of the fox chakra out so that Naruto could control it. And Naruto has also modified the seal himself to release more of the fox chakra into the system, but now, something strange was happening. The fox was somehow getting linked to Naruto's emotions, because he didn't feel the rage to kill Naruto like he once did, after being subjugated and locked away for so long. As he was more talking to Naruto, it was strange, as Naruto wondered if this had anything to do with his raw emotions being, well, slapped away. But he felt it when he tapped into the fox power, rage. It's been a long time since he felt rage, anger, to want to literally beat the crap out of someone, and it felt good as he attacked Damon. Damon was caught off guard by the speed as Naruto tapped into a portion of his real speed and obliterated Damon. The match was over within seconds as Naruto drove him several times into the ground. Naruto broke every single bone in his body, leaving him nothing but a mess on the ground as Naruto crushed his throat. As Minato and the others moved forward to intercept the match, but lucky enough Naruto did not kill him, he just left him there. As Damon was out cold, he was quickly checked by the medics before bringing to the infirmary. As Naruto took up the blade before handing it back to Inabe, who was confused because Naruto won, but Naruto told him that it wasn't his, and if Damon was so willing to bet something that was so important, well, he simply walked off as he left. Minato went by the hospital as now they told him that Damon would be fine. It will take a long while for him to get back on his feet, but he'll be fine. Every single bone in his body was broken and his throat was crushed, but he will be fine, but it will take time. It seems that Naruto really had a number on him. Meanwhile, on the Hokage's monument, as Sesame arrived up there, and she spoke to Naruto, she wanted to know before all of this, did he ever feel anything for her? As Naruto told her that he understands the feelings of people around him, and he only made sure that the people that he cared about is happy. As he seemed to walk off, leaving her a lot to think about. Naruto was sent out on a mission as he was detoured towards Kira. As the Mizukage had a note for the Hokage, Mei Terumi, a rather pleasant woman. She could never read Naruto even when he came here to help. It didn't seem like he wanted help, it seemed like he was more interested in fighting. He seemed distant from everything, but, well, he was a really handsome man. As she had her time of flirting, the way she talked, it just turned rather provocative. But she was eyeing him as a calculated leader, as she wanted to make good with the other nations, but she didn't want to join the war. Kiri has already suffered enough. But Konoha was the one to help them, and she has to ally herself with them first. After all, they had given them time to rebuild. And in that letter that she had was a message towards Minato. As Naruto took it, after a few more discussions, he left, making his way back towards a hidden leaf. He was attacked. As Naruto's blood boiled when he saw who attacked him, it was none other than Kisame, but someone else arrived. Not someone else, two other people. It was Hidan and Kakazu. Up in the air distance away was Sasori and Deidara. As they were all here, the members of the Akatsuki. Sasori and Deidara was here to make sure that he didn't flee. The leader must really think that Naruto was something. After all, they've sent them to watch over the battle just in case. So yeah guys, so basically let's let off. If you guys can switch across the blade for yourself, so it's a new episode. We begin this episode a few days prior to Naruto being attacked by the Akatsuki. Oniki was currently standing in his office. In front of him was his granddaughter Kurosaki. I have received report that at the moment Naruto Uzumaki Senju is moving towards Kiri. What do you want me to do? She said right away. I do not know how long you will take there, but I want you to take a platoon and make your way towards the border and wait for him to pass by. I have already paid the Akatsuki a hefty sum to take him down, but just in case they might fail, and that's a big if, I want you to be there to bring him back here. What? Not kill him? She said. He shook his head. Naruto is a very strong person. You and I both know that. From his exploits across the nations. If it wasn't my resentment for him, I would say that he was a fine shinobi. Cold, willing to do whatever it takes for his country. Kurosaki was surprised her grandfather was actually praising that man. As she remembered him in that forest of death, how things changed. Well, he was cold back then, but now he was just wicked. He had slaughtered a lot of stone shinobis, and he would pay for each and every one of them. Even though they were the one that sent the stone shinobis as civilians to kill him. But still, she would do anything for the stone to survive. I want you to bring him back here, under the disguise of him being dead. If you do manage to take on the Akatsuki, if you see the opportunity with him and the Akatsuki weekend, I want you to take the force and annihilate the Akatsuki. And then you bring him back here. But why? She said. It would be a big waste to let the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki die like that. As she put it together rather quickly. But, oh man, what of Kumo? She said. They don't have to know anything. After all, after the destruction of Konoha, we will be going after the Sun and then Kiri. And there shall only be one that reigns supreme. And the one that has the most firepower, which will be the stone. And when we have the backup of the Nine Tails on our side after ripping it from that boy and sealing it within inside of someone else, we can dominate the entire elemental nation, said Oniki. As she realized her grandfather was thinking 10 steps ahead of anyone, as that brought a smirk to her face. I'll do it, she said, and I won't fail you. I'll bring him back here, doesn't matter what it costs. Good, now go. We don't know how long you will take there. Make sure if things don't go your way, you're not seen. Understood? As she nodded. Skip back to the present time. Kurosaki and her platoon had been waiting. They had made their way. They had brought 2 sensors with them to make sure that they could find him on his route. The group was currently underground and distance away from where the fighting was going on. As Kurosaki was out top, she was on a small, rocky mountain hill. Given the fact that they weren't in the Fire Nation, or in the Earth Nation right now, they were in the coast. In an unknown desert area, which was perfect as she was a distance away, she was seeing everything. Her platoon was already there. A couple members of the bomber squad was underground, and she had a sensor beside her, and the other one over towards the west just in case any other Akatsuki member made their way. She just received word that 2 more were here. She couldn't tell exactly who it was as a person. They were high up in the sky on a strange bird, but she made sure to keep herself hidden. But she could feel the chakra in the air. It was getting tense and rising by the second. Well, she would just wait until they tired themselves out, and then she would collect her prize. Her grandfather would be proud of her. This is one step closer for her to becoming Tishikage, she thought to herself. Meanwhile, as Naruto was surrounded from all angles, a wicked grin on Hidan's face. Kisame had his toothy smile. Kakazo stood there as calmly as possible as Naruto was looking up in the sky, seeming to ignore them all. That pissed Hidan off. Hey, standing there like you're a big shot. You really think that you're gonna escape this alive? Kakazo looked towards Hidan, making sure that you remember the plan after all. The idiotic Jashinist sometime went overboard and killed his opponents, and this one wasn't supposed to be killed. Kakazo was surprised that the leader would send all of them for this task, even send those two up there to watch over them. Was this boy so strong as they thought? Or perhaps the leader just overestimated him? As Naruto's eyes turned towards Kisame, completely ignoring Hidan. You guys are a mercenary group, correct? Yeah? What of it, said Kisame. I was just wondering, who sent you after me? Well, I guess there's no problem in telling you. It was a hidden stone. Kisame was given clear orders that the news was going to be leaked that the hidden stone was the one to send Akatsuki, so there wasn't any problem in telling Naruto that. Oh, I see, said Naruto. Thank you for that. This is the best reason for us to finally stop holding back against them. Well, that doesn't matter, said Kisame. It's not like you're gonna be there to witness it. As Naruto smiled at that, you know I've been waiting for this. Kisame narrowed his eyes. And what do you mean by that, he said. Well, I couldn't find you. It's like you're a ghost. I took Orochimaru, and you're the next one on my list. Just because you brought down the snake, don't believe. Don't think in your mind that you're somehow gonna get through this. Kisame said, I mean you're surrounded. You know for our organization, you know that we're made up of all extra criminals, correct? Yes, I do, said Naruto. But I don't care about that. I've been waiting for your organization to show up so I can slaughter you all. But you, said Naruto, I'm more interested in you and that masked man. I'm gonna prolong your death. I'm gonna make it as painful as possible. Kisame chuckled. Bold words. Why don't you show me what you're capable of? Crimson Death. Before Kisame could do anything, Hidan shot forward. I've had enough, he says. He brought down his sight, coming down towards Naruto. As Kakazo watched, the reaction was swift as Naruto turned and blocked it with his blade. Kisame then moved, the speed ripping Samihata through the ground as he raised above Naruto and dropped it. A crystal blade formed on Naruto's other arm as he blocked Samihata. But then the beast of a sort started to absorb the chakra out of the crystal blade. As he started to dwindle down, Naruto took in a deep breath before he poured it out. The sudden shockwave blew away both men as Naruto appeared in front of Hidan. Hidan smirked as he drive his blade up, but Naruto twisted his body and flipped over Hidan before grabbing him by the back of the cloak and slamming him into the ground. The ground exploded. As Naruto felt something, he ducked. A feet whipped over his head from Kakazo. As Naruto looked down, Kakazo brought down his fist as Naruto moved. Kakazo's fist slammed into Hidan because he did not stop, further blowing apart the earth. As Naruto jumped back, surprised by that action, he heard the man curse as he pulled himself out of the broken earth, unfazed by that punch. Well, they weren't extra criminals for nothing. As Naruto gripped his blade, he ducked under Samihata. A few of the scales extended as Naruto had to twist his head to the side so they stabbed right into the earth. Other than nicking right in the face, he swept his leg around and tried to kick Kisame's legs away from underneath him, but Kisame jumped and brought Samihata down. Given the momentum, Naruto was further smashed into the earth. But yet, its momentum did not break as he held on to his blade. Kisame smirked as he jumped back. As Naruto felt the vibrations in the ground, he quickly rolled as the hand broke through the ground, trying to grab him. The hand then twirled and came down on him and smashed the earth apart. As he looked towards Kakazo, in mid-air, Naruto was assaulted by Hidan, who came around a wide swing as Naruto blocked his sight once again. Before realizing something, as he turned his body, Hidan, while fast, flexible. Naruto did not understand how he was an S-rank missing. He left himself so open in so many places. That is why, as Naruto added chakra to his leg and applied so much pressure, a brutal kick to his neck. A snapping sound could be heard as he snapped Hidan's neck. Hidan's body was sent twirling into a tree, as he broke right through it. One down sent Naruto as he landed. He then turned as he blocked Samihata that slammed into his guard, but Naruto's blade was reinforced as he did not move an inch. Kisame smirked. Strong, he said, as he twisted and twirled Samihata down. Moving surprisingly fast to someone looked rather slow, as Naruto moved as it broke the ground. The moment he did, a giant fireball was in front of him that came from Kakazu. As Naruto brought his hand up, a wall of ice emerged within a second as the fireball slammed into it. He had created another wall as Kisame slammed Samihata and broke through it. As Naruto flashed one-handed seals before taking a deep breath as something built up in his throat. He then started to spew out lava balls. Kisame brought Samihata down as a force of lava balls crashed into him, knocking him away. As Kakazu appeared, his feet raised up in the air as Naruto ducked. He twisted his body, but Kakazu leaned back as Naruto tried to backhand him punch. But Kakazu grabbed Naruto's wrist and flipped him around before throwing him back. Kakazu moved forward at the same time and slammed his fist into Naruto's X guard motion as Naruto felt the sting in his arms as Kakazu's skin had changed and his fist was like a train that slammed into him, throwing Naruto back. At the last moment though, Naruto reacted as he twisted mid-air as he had to move, but he got sliced on the cheek. Naruto flipped as he landed softly. As Naruto was confused, he just killed him. Hidan smirked. "How are you alive?" said Naruto, as Hidan just chuckled madly. But he did not answer Naruto. Naruto had to move as Samihata was sent sailing towards him. Kisame literally threw the blade, forced Naruto to jump to the other side. Before he could land though, a massive stream of water crashed into the ground where he was, tearing it apart as Naruto flipped over it, using a burst of wind chakra to levitate himself just for a few seconds. A bolt of lightning came crashing down on him as he flipped out of the way and landed on his feet. As Naruto then started to gather chakra inside his lungs, he then took in a deep breath, only for him to stagger in pain. As Naruto was confused as he heard laughter. No, that's what I'm talking about. Relish in the pain. As Naruto was confused, he could feel on his stomach he was wounded, but he had his armor on. Just what the hell was going on? As Naruto's eyes scanned the battlefield as he saw Kisame moving forward. Kisame looked bored, like he expected the fight to be over right now. On the other hand, Kakazu simply turned away, looking towards Hidan, as Hidan just laughed. "Remember, you Jashine's freak, do not take it too far. The leader wouldn't be happy." I know, so shut it already, Kakazu." But the man stabbed himself in the shoulder. Naruto bit back a scream, confused by what the hell was going on, before he slashed himself across the chest as Naruto gripped his armor. Hidan then stabbed himself in the knee, forcing Naruto down. As Naruto realized that this guy, he stabbed himself in the other knee. "It's a shame," said Kisame as he stepped forward. "You wanted your revenge with me, and I also wanted to test you to see how far and how strong you have become. After all, I believe I'm a part of the reason why you're so strong. I gave you that motivation, the drive to come to one day to find and kill me," Kisame said. "The day that you're precious, like a sister, was taken from you." As Kisame looked down that tooth to smile, "I remember that day quite well. You guys looked fresh and new back then. It was your first mission, if I'm not mistaken. Just because of the way you guys reacted. That day you lost something precious to you. I can guess that is the reason why you've changed so much. I've heard a lot about you, Crimson Death. The things you have done. That you never leave your enemy behind alive. Always slaughtering them. Doing whatever it takes to make sure your enemy falls. But I guess this reign of yours is now over." It was then that Kakazu heard Naruto growl. He then noticed Naruto's hands. His nails were elongated. What the hell? Before anyone could say anything and before Hidan could stab himself once again, Naruto rocketed off the ground with so much speed, he was a blur to them. As Hidan found his face grabbed and yanked out of his sigil, as Naruto picked him up by grabbing him by the chest before dropping him, a titanic explosion went off. Something that was supposed to be impossible. Because of the way that Hidan struck the ground, the entire place erupted. Rocks and debris was blown away with such devastation. Chaos reigned, forcing Kakazu and Hidan to jump away. The entire field was obliterated by one drop. What the hell? Said Kisame, but he had a smirk on his face as he looked. Kakazu was confused. The speed, he couldn't even keep track of it. On the other hand, as Naruto stood there in the wreckage of what he just caused, Hidan was cursing despite his lower half no longer being attached to his upper half. From his shoulder, going down, was detached, as Naruto had to literally rip him into pieces. The force of the pressure that Naruto brought down seemed like what he did with Lee when he applied so much pressure and it knocked Lee out clear in the Chunin exams. But right now his body was enhanced. So much more power, and Naruto applied so much power behind his blow, and not to mention his nails had stabbed right into Hidan's upper half, so when he collided with the ground, his upper half was severed, leaving him a shoulder with a head attached to it, and his lower half completely ripped off. Hidan cursed as he could not do anything. "I'm surprised you're still alive," said Naruto. His voice was deep and rough as he spoke. "I'm immortal, you little piece of shit," Hidan said. "So whatever you do, you can't kill me. I'll tear you to pieces, watch!" As Naruto carved something into his forehead with his chakra. As Hidan went quiet as Naruto shut his brain mobility down by adding that seal right to his forehead. As Naruto then got to his feet, as his claws were there, elongated, his body seeming to be steaming, as smoke was coming from all of his wounds that Hidan suffered on him. As Naruto checked over his body, as he took in a deep breath, he had felt it. The moment that guy had took his blood, the way he laughed, something was wrong, and that schedule that he was standing into. As Naruto figured that somehow he linked him together with him, because that guy seemed to be able to enjoy pain and not die from those wounds at all. So that explained the immortality. So getting him out of that seal was enough. The pressure that Naruto had added to his chest while knocking him out of the sigil should have given Naruto the same amount of pain, but the moment he did not feel that pain, he dropped Hidan to the ground. And the reason why it caused so much chaos was because of what Naruto was currently in, as he turned towards Kakazu and Kisame. As Naruto was different. His eyes, to be more exact, they were golden. All of his color pattern eyes were gold, with a single black pupil in the center. Black markings ran down his face from his eyes, going down towards his neck. Its teeth resembled a lion. Its face was feral and filled with nothing but absolute rage. As Naruto entered Sage Mode, he had learned Sage Mode in the past 4 years. This was one of the incidents that he talked about in his past where he nearly died, as it was rather, well, dangerous to learn from Alliance. But with his dedication and determination, he had pushed through it and he was able to survive. While Kisame was talking to him, he ignored the pain as he kept his body completely still. He just needed a minute, and that was enough. He had 5 minutes in Sage Mode. After just taking things like that, he could use his clones, only 4 at a time, to gather Sage energy, and when they disperse, the chakra resorted back to him. But 5 minutes was all that he needed. As he turned towards his 2 that remained there, Kisame looked impressed. The man looked happy, as he thought the matches was gonna end right away, but now it doesn't seem that way. "Seems like he's more dangerous than we thought," said Kakazu. Throughout this time he had underestimated Naruto. Maybe there was a reason why the leader had sent them all to take this boy down. Well, he still thought that it was overkill, as Kisame gripped Samihata tighter. As Kakazu readied himself, he ripped off his robe as something emerged from his back. "I see you're not taking him so lightly anymore," Kisame said, as Naruto watches 4 strange creatures emerge from Kakazu. Well, he is a seal master, and given the fact that he was able to make Hidan shut his goddamn trap, you should be aware of that, Kakazu said. Still, he did not look concerned. It doesn't matter though, as he simply waved his hand, and all of his masked creatures shot forward. As Naruto stood there, he did not move a single muscle, as he just watched the first one that came at him release a fireball that was so large it consumed a large part of the area, and another one floated behind Naruto and released a torrent of wind. "Jinchurikis don't die that easily," said Kakazu. The attacks collided, and They create a massive hellstorm right in the center as the fire and wind exploded wide as the entire place was ripped apart. Smoke filled the entire area as Kurosaki off the distance was shocked. Even from here the smoke cloud was large. "What's going on?" she said towards the sensor. "These guys," the man says he was shaking a bit, "are truly extreme criminals," as he seemed really afraid. Damn it, she couldn't see much from here. As she glanced up towards that bird, she had to be cautious. She had to make sure that she wasn't noticed. Meanwhile, when the smoke finally cleared away, there was nothing there. "Did you turn him to ashes?" Kisame said as he turned towards Kakazu. No, that couldn't be it. All of this boasts about the Crimson Death. He couldn't go down so easily, could he? It was then that Kisame blinked when he saw it. Just for a second that he blinked, and it was over, as a fist smashed into Kakazu's chest. Kakazu's eyes went wide as his back contrasts before exploding outwards, as his one remaining heart exploded out of his back. Kakazu was sent skittering away, blown straight towards the wall as he crashed into it. Kisame swings Samihata just in time, only for Naruto to tilt his head back as it passed him. He then raised his feet. Kisame smirked as he brought his other hand down to grab Naruto's leg. But at the last moment, Naruto did something shocking. He roared. A deafening roar that blew Kisame away, launching him back as he crashed through several trees. Meanwhile, one of the masked creatures shot forward as they went into Kakazu's back. Rather quickly, Kakazu slowly picked himself back up after the electrical mass has returned back to him. As he looked up at Naruto with a furious look, as Naruto's ears heard it, the beating of his heart once again. His back was sewed back up by threads that just seemed to move towards his will. "You Akatsuki people are truly freaks," said Naruto. Kakazu slowly picked himself up as Naruto heard the discharge of several water bullets and a roaring flame coming towards him. As Kakazu rushed through Einstein, lightning release, electric magnetic murder, he said, as he released a burst of lightning towards Naruto. "Zone release," said Naruto. Cosmic shockwave. As he slammed his hand down on the ground, a violent ripple wave exploded outwards that ripped apart everything. Stone and debris was blown apart. The earth was torn. Those attacks collided with the sound wave as explosions went off as he reacted negatively. Meanwhile, a distance away in the bushes, "I know," said Kisame as he picked himself up talking to Samihata. Blood was pouring down from his ears as Samihata was busy healing the damage. "I guess he's stronger than we thought, but it should be more fun," he said, the smirk on his face as he picked himself up, dusting off his cloak. Meanwhile, as Naruto stood there, amongst the chaos, he moved. This time Kakazu was ready as he moved as well. He brought his fist as he sent it towards Naruto's head as Naruto tilted his head on reflex. His body grazed around as Kakazu launched his arm forward as Naruto dodged. Kakazu sent several other fists, but Naruto dodged each and every one of them as Kakazu saw Naruto's ears twitching each time. He then moved back as the ground under Naruto exploded, one of the masks erupting from it, but Naruto already moved. "I see now," said Kakazu. "Seems like this new form of yours also enhanced your hearing to ridiculous degrees." But Naruto did not say a single word. As he then looked around, before flashing to another Stefan sign, he then took in a deep breath. "Boil release. Steaming feel," he said as he spewed steam out of his mouth that swallowed the entire area quickly. Kakazu leaped away, but several tentacles of steam shot towards him as he had to move in mid-air. As he was focusing, one of his masks got grabbed, the water mask, as it was pulled into the steam. As Kakazu felt that the mask was destroyed within inside, what the hell as he jumped back, as his fire mask was now hovering over him. The wind mask then released a massive cutting blade that slammed into the center of the steam where Naruto was supposed to be. All Kakazu saw was the steam come packed together like a bullet before it was shot forward. As the wind mask flew up in the air, the moment he did though, Naruto came rocketing down like a bomb as Kakazu saw the clone that launched him up into mid-air. As Naruto smashed his heel into the mask's face, obliterating it. Kakazu cursed as he forced the fire mask to go back inside of him. He noted the fire in the water as it came on his shoulder. As he flashed through Hansen, he started to gather ball of inches right in front of him, one made of precise, pristine water that would slice through anything, and fire that was hot enough to scorch anything in its path. As Naruto held his hand in front of him, electricity sparkled on his fingers before Rasengan formed his hand. The electricity formed a ball, a giant ball, of nothing but lightning as several Rasengans were formed inside of it. As Naruto turned it, and looked towards Kakazu, released a massive attack. As he tossed it, it slammed right into the attack. The electricity was a thing that got torn off. Kakazu's eyes went wide when the several Rasengans slammed into the ground in front of him, forcing him to jump. As Naruto met him in mid-air, both of their feet collided as Kakazu felt the force. As Naruto twisted and cracked his feet on Kakazu's shoulder, launching him like a bullet. As Naruto then dropped like a bomb, but he had diverted himself as Samihata nearly slammed right into him. As he flipped and landed, Kisame was upon him in a second, crashing Samihata down completely, obliterating the ground. Kisame flashed through hands as he spewed water out of his mouth. It was so much water the entire place got soaked. As Naruto watched as several hungry sharks exploded out of the water, they came to devour him. He took in a breath once more before he roared. He simply roared as a sonic wave obliterated all the sharks. He then landed right in the water. Kisame's eyes widened as he leaped out of the water. Ice release. Frozen lake, said Naruto. The entire water surface froze up underneath as well, as the thing was turned into a frozen lake, just like Naruto said. Kisame landed in the water with a frown. As Naruto shot forward, Kisame braced himself. At the last moment, he used Samihata to pull himself down, dodging Naruto's kick. He smirked as he launched one right in Naruto's chest, but Naruto grabbed on to the side of his jacket, pulling him as the both of them were tossed back. As they crashed over towards the wall, when the smoke cleared, Kisame was face down into the ground. As Naruto raised his feet, but Kisame was saved by Kakazu, who came in a violent punch that Naruto ducked under. Kakazu brought down both of his fists, several tentacles trying to pierce Naruto's skin, but his body was enhanced with Sage Mode. They could not pierce him. As Naruto opened his mouth and spewed a glob of lava towards Kakazu, several of his threads got burned as he cursed in annoyance. Naruto's body then got covered in electricity. As he drew his blade, Uzumaki fighting style. 10 consecutive slashes, he said. As he vanished, Kakazu cursed when he felt something ripping into his skin. As he received 10 deadly slashes all over him. As Naruto appeared behind him and delivered a vicious right hook to the back of his neck. As he slammed face first into the ground, Kakazu cursed he was a man who fought the first Hokage, and this is the punk was doing him like this. Wood style, said Naruto. Raging vines as he slammed his hand down. Several vines erupted from the ground as they ripped into Kakazu, tearing into his stomach and his arms, as he rushed toward Kisame as well, who launched himself backwards. As Naruto pulled Kakazu back towards him before he held his hand to the heavens, a Rasengan started to build, the several vines going after Kisame stopping him from interrupting. As the Rasengan formed, until it started to glow with wind chakra, until it turned to a massive Fuma shuriken because of the blades. Naruto did not even utter a single word as Kakazu's eyes went wide as Naruto launched the Rasengan shuriken. It split through the vines and slammed right into Kakazu. The thing then enlarged as the hundreds of wind blades started to rip his body apart. Once that was over, the Sage Mode faded away from Naruto as he was now out of time. The 5 minutes were done. He brought his hand forward to create some clones, but before he could, he was attacked. As he had to move back, Kisame did not waste any time as he spewed water out of his mouth. A titanic wave that swallowed Naruto as well. Hundreds of trees and the debris around them got swallowed up in the water. As Naruto was trapped in a giant bubble when he looked around. As Kisame ripped his cloak completely, what was left of it anyway. As he fused with Samihata without wasting any time. As Naruto looked around trapped in the depths of this water, it was heavy. He sensed something coming as he moved just in time, but his arm got badly grazed. Kisame then turned back as he smashed headfirst into Naruto's butt. The armor protected Naruto. As Kisame felt the armor, it was strong, ridiculous so, as he pulled back and created hundreds. Literal 100 water sharks that surrounded Naruto from every angle. As Naruto could feel his chakra was being sapped away. He couldn't even call upon the fox chakra in here. as he could feel his chakra being drained away really quickly. He had come up with something fast. He slammed his hands together as his body started overheat until his body started literally glow. Kisame simply smirked as the chakra from the water was sapping Naruto everything away from him. Slowly, he would waste out his chakra and die, as Naruto could feel himself getting weaker and weaker. As Naruto then turned his hand as he started spin. He started to spin as his body was covered in hot magma until he started to create a vortex inside the water. Kisame's eyes went wide when the backlash started to destroy his sharks one by one as he cursed as he sent the rest of them in. But a huge explosion got rid of them as steam started to bubble outside the dome. Everything inside started to get hot as Kisame felt the pressure of the heat as Naruto magma started to spin and circulate the entire dome until Naruto started to spin the rotation of the dome. It started to change shape and size. Despite this, Naruto was running low as Kisame was siphoning the chakra same way, and not to mention Naruto could barely breathe inside of what he was doing, but he kept himself calm although he felt lightheaded as he kept on spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning until the dome was compressed. He didn't release it all. A violent explosion knocked Kisame away as the entire dome was obliterated by the violent onslaught of gathered up chakra and the heat that washed away everything, bursting the entire dome. The water came rushing out. It was hot, intensely so as trees were burned instantly. Grubble was burned apart. Hidon's body in the midst of everything was there simmering the hot heat, getting scorched as the hot molten lava water was burning every single thing around it. As Naruto was on his knees panting, as he was exhausted. Kisame was on his feet though, as he was back in his normal form. He looked pissed off though, as he had a few burn marks over his body, but they were rapidly healing. As Naruto raised his hands, his blade poofed back into reality as he gripped it tightly as he got to his feet. Before he could do anything though, several tiny spiders came falling down right in front of him. His eyes went wide as he shielded his face as they exploded, rocketing backwards as they crashed into the mountainside, breaking through one of the small valley of mountains clustered together. As Kisame looked up, angry. "What the hell are you doing?" he said. "It was necessary, Kisame," said Deidara as he came jumping down off his bird. "We've already lost 2 Akatsuki members to this guy already. He's something alright. I'm not even sure if Hidon over there is dead, but Kakazu is surely toast. The leader will be quite pissed off if we just watch you die as well. I had it handled," said Kisame. At that moment, the sky started darkening as the lightning started to rip through the heavens. "What's this?" said Sasori as he looked up to the heavens. Samihata started to shake. "What is it?" "Chakra. It's pouring up into the air." Before anyone of them could say anything else, move they had to because electricity came raining down from the heavens as it crashed down violently. Several massive strikes obliterating everything, turning it into nothing but pure, unbridled chaos. As Naruto exploded from the rocks and debris, his hand in a hand sign as he locked them together, bringing down the lightning release. There was a storage scroll on his armor that sealed away an abundance of chakra every time he put chakra in, just in case. And now he was tapping into it as he brought down the lightning from the heavens. The puppet of Sasori was obliterated from the shock, but he had enough time to leap out of it though. As Deidara got badly scarred at his left arm and shocked towards his side as well. After all, lightning was so fast and unpredictable. On the other hand, Samihata simply absorbed everything, pouring it into Kisame as his chakra levels rise once again as he smirked. Sasori quickly brought out his puppet, completely shocked that this one person was taking them all on. They were all S-rank criminals. Well, his father was a double S-rank criminal, and there was rumors that he was on par with his father, or even stronger. But this just doesn't seem normal. Iron sand flew from the third Kazekage and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto did not move as his fingers started to twitch. Out of nowhere, the iron sand stopped. Sasori's face looked perplexed. "What the hell's going on?" said Deidara as he clutched onto his side. As Deidara could not use his art because electricity was damaging his nerves. and his art was weak against electricity, so he had to dote on sorcery for this one. He's overpowering me, said Sorcerer as his face scrunched up in anger. He could not show pain because he was a puppet, but he was pissed off as he could feel his control over the iron sand pulling out of his grasp as Naruto. Enormous amount of chakra was overwhelming it, as Naruto could also use the magnetic release and could take control of the iron sand. But for him to be able to overpower sorcery, his chakra levels, they were immense. Despite being in that water bubble for so long, Kisame was truly amazed. As that water bubble was sucking so much of Naruto's chakra, the more he stand in there, the more of his chakra that it sucked away. At a quick perception, just how much chakra does this kid have? Sorcery then finally got control back over the sand as he pulled it back towards him. To his utter shock though, the sand grabbed the Kazekage puppet and teared it to mincemeat. His eyes widened as he realized what happened. Naruto allowed him to take back control, and then his eyes widened and the sand exploded outwards, creating several pointy ends like a spear as he ripped into his body. Sorcery's eyes went wide as Naruto shot forward before he placed his hand down in the sand. The entire thing then started to glow as he poured explosion release chakra into it before jumping back. Deidara got up as he leaped away. The explosion then went off as Deidara was thrown violently, as Sasuke was blown to pieces. As Naruto felt it, tapping into his Jinten, his swift release, to move so fast to get to the iron sand before Kisame could reach him, as he returned back to his position. As Kisame looked towards him with utter shock, Deidara on the other hand was still clutching onto his wound, as electricity was still in his body. As Naruto raised his hands once again, "Storm release," he said, "Eye of the Hurricane," as he literally pulled his hand down, as the heavens seemed like they came down with it. A blinding light of wind, electricity, and water came down in a circulation, as it came down like a shower, ripping through the earth like Jinten, on his dust release, tearing everything apart. Deidara had to run for his life. In his state, he couldn't use anything because the electricity was still messing with him, as he had to flee. Getting far away enough, he saw something in a flashy move, bring up his arm, but Naruto's feet was enhanced. As Naruto was indeed stronger than Tsunade when he enhanced his muscles, so when his feet connected to Deidara's arms, a snapping sound could be heard. But Naruto did not stop. He grabbed Deidara by the feet and picked him up, before slamming his head down to the ground. He then turned as he saw Kisame running towards him, as he flashed to another set of hand sign, wood style, laughing but a hand he says he slammed his hand down. A dozen of hands emerged from the ground as he started to attack Kisame. Kisame used his sword as he shredded through them one after another, running towards Naruto. As Deidara had literal fear in his eyes, he couldn't go out like this. He was supposed to go in a grand explosion. As Naruto noticed the man still suffering from electricity, so he placed his hand on his chest. As he released a voltage of electricity into him, Deidara cried out in pain as his hair got put on edge. His whole body tensed up as Naruto started to seize every muscle in his body, destroying his nerve endings before he switched, and he froze the blood inside Deidara's body. Deidara lay there unable to move, as Naruto got back up to his feet before adding chakra to his fist and driving it down, as Deidara's body was like ice. The momentum exploded in man. His entire body frozen from the inside. He broke to pieces. The moment Naruto looked back up, a sword slammed into his face. Sami had to send him hurtling away as he crashed down into the ground. He skidded a few feet before he slowly started to pick himself up. The moment he did, the handle of Samihata slammed into his stomach before Kisame grabbed him by the hair and slammed his face into his knee. Pushing Naruto back, he slammed Samihata right into Naruto's chest. But Naruto smirked as he activated the ceiling matrix on his chest, on his armor to be exact. Kisame could not pull Samihata back as he wondered what the hell was going on. Samihata tried to absorb the chakra as quickly as possible, but the space-time seal on Naruto's chest did not allow that. As the space-time seal started to pull and twist, as Samihata was sucked inside the vortex on Naruto's armor, Kisame's eyes went wide as Naruto jumped away. "What have you done?" said Kisame. "No more stealing chakra," said Naruto, as he looked towards Kisame, panting a bit, as he wiped the blood away from his nose. His nose was definitely broken. "Give me back Samihata," Kisame said. Why would I do that, said Naruto. You know, I was hoping that you would stay for the last so I can kill you. In the end, I guess I got what I wanted. Kisame snarled. They're in no position to fight me, he said. Oh, am I not, said Naruto. As he closed his eyes, as Naruto came in his mindscape, he saw the fox there with his eyes open, as he could see the fight that was going on outside. Let me guess. You're here for my power, he said. Yeah, to ask, said Naruto. I want to rip this guy apart. I have already tapped into my reserves too much. And if I go at him now with that, I won't have enough to get myself back. And if any enemies were to come across me on the way, I would certainly be in a lot of crap. So what do you prefer? Letting me die, and you reform in a couple of years? Or we both make it through this alive? The fox snarled. You've been entertaining so far. Let's see how this goes on, he said, as he started to pour his chakra into Naruto. Thanks, said Naruto. The fox looked at him strangely. But he did not say anything, as Naruto exited the mindscape. As Naruto opened back his eyes, to Kisame was just barely a second that passed. As Naruto's body changed, an explosion happened. The sensor that was over beside Kurosaki fainted, the two of them, as the explosion of the violent chakra burst to the heavens. Meanwhile, at Konoha, something is wrong, said Menma as he burst into the office. Minato looked up from his work as he looked at Menma. Menma held up his hand as it was a seal on the palm of his hand that showed something rather concerning. Meanwhile, as Naruto stood there, except he had changed. 6 tails were behind him. He was in full control as they waved a laser behind him as he looked towards Kisame. Kisame snarled as he watched Naruto looking at him. Smoke was seeping from his mouth as he moved. He destroyed the platform that he was on as he ricocheted forward. Kisame tried to block, but the speed was just immense as Naruto slammed into him body tackle before gripping him with 2 of his tails and beating him into the ground. Kisame managed to break through that though as he gathered chakra in his mouth before releasing another tiny wave that slammed into Naruto, yet Naruto did not move as the thing steamed off his body. His literal oppressing chakra burned right through it as he shot forward. A multiple of strikes were delivered to Kisame that ripped into his flesh. Kisame cried out in pain as the last one broke something inside his chest. He could feel it as he was launched back, but the fox did not stop as it came towards him like a hungry beast. The tails extended and slammed into him over and over before Naruto launched himself and grabbed Kisame. Before he started to gather chakra in his mouth and release a sudden blast that scorched half of Kisame's body, crushing him into the ground. The fox snarled as it raised its head up to the sky as blue and red chakra started to combine. Kisame slowly, weakly picked up himself as he had a smile on his face despite all of his pain that he was suffering. After all, this was the way that he wanted to go out in the end. A glorious battle. He truly underestimated this boy. Even with his best, though, he couldn't beat him. Well, it didn't matter. He would fall at the hands of pain. He was strong. But was he strong as a god? That was Kisame's last thoughts before Naruto released it. No hesitation as he turned him into dust. The Biju bomb wiped out a large area, shredding everything that was there. As it even went towards where Kurosaki and the group was. Luckily, it was not in their exact location. Once it was all over, Naruto collapsed down to his knees as he returned back to normal skin, barely burned. As he started to heal slowly, his body was tendered. He didn't like entering that form because of his, well, not complete master over Kurama's chakra. That was as far as he could go, up to 6 tails. It was his condition with the fox that he would not try to forcefully take anything from him. And that was what Naruto could manage, but his body was really tense now, as he had to cool off. After all, fighting so many S-rank missing names was not something easy, but he couldn't stay out here in the open. But before he could cool himself off, he saw it was none other than Kurosaki that stepped out of the bushes. She looked around, seemingly impressed, but then she scoffed. So, finally just you and me again, right before she said. As Naruto did not say anything, he was gonna kill this bitch. There was one thing that he knew. After all, it was her people that sent the Akatsuki after him. That was the opening that they needed to slaughter the Hidden Stone members, and she would be the first one to die. She smirked. Seems you're still able to fight, huh? Well, as Naruto slowly picked himself up, his eyes went wide as he moved, but it wasn't fast enough. As the ground exploded, the explosion wasn't anything normal. The explosive core really went all out that she had to leap away. As Naruto was caught up in a blast and thrown, he smashed hard head first, right into the wall behind him. The broken, discarded wall. His armor was fractured, it was cracked. Blood was leaking from his head going down to his face, and his left arm was burned badly and twisted. His right leg was in a bad shape. As he coughed up blood, something then smashed into his chest as his eyes went wide. As Kurosaki stood on top of him. As she got off, her fist got covered in rock. As she smiled down at him, she promised her grandfather she would not fail. As Naruto looked around as he saw a horde of stone ninjas. Too much of them. Good night, she said, as she drove the fist down into his face. And that was the last thing that he saw. But guys, if you ain't subscribed right here, if you want the next part, then do like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. But I'm off for now, see you guys soon. Peace.